Before the name America echoed across oceans, before cities rose and borders were drawn, this land was home to countless nations, each with their own story. For thousands of years, long before European sails appeared on the horizon, great civilizations flourished across the continent we now call the United States. From the sophisticated mound builders of Cahokia near the Mississippi River, to the intricate pueblos of the ancestral Puebloans in the Southwest, to the powerful Iroquois Confederacy in the Northeast, native peoples cultivated trade networks, spiritual traditions, and complex societies. This was a land rich in culture, knowledge, and connection to nature. The arrival of Europeans. The late 15th century brought an age of exploration. In 1492, Christopher Columbus crossed the Atlantic, opening the door for European expansion. Spanish explorers ventured into Florida and the Southwest. The French explored the Mississippi and the Great Lakes. And in 1607, the English established Jamestown, Virginia, the first permanent English settlement. The meeting of worlds was both a moment of discovery and a tragedy. Native populations suffered devastating losses from disease, war, and displacement, forever altering the land's ancient balance. The colonization period. By the 17th and 18th centuries, 13 English colonies stretched along the Atlantic coast. Each colony developed its own character. New England thrived on trade and fishing, the South on tobacco and slavery, and the middle colonies on diverse cultures and economies. But tensions simmered beneath the surface. British taxation without colonial representation, laws like the Stamp Act and the Tea Act, sparked growing unrest. Pamphlets, protests, and boycotts united the colonies under a shared cause, the fight for liberty. The American Revolution, 1776. In 1775, shots rang out at Lexington and Concord, the shot heard round the world. A year later, on July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson. It boldly proclaimed that all men are created equal, and that government derives its power from the consent of the governed. The Revolutionary War was long and grueling. But in 1781, with the surrender of British forces at Yorktown, the United States of America was born. The Constitution and a new nation. Independence brought freedom, but also uncertainty. The early government, under the Articles of Confederation, was weak. In 1787, delegates met in Philadelphia to draft a new constitution, creating a federal system of checks and balances. In 1789, George Washington became the first president of the United States, setting precedents that shaped the young republic. Expansion and division. The 19th century was an age of growth. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803 doubled the nation's size. Settlers moved westward, guided by the belief in manifest destiny, that America was destined to stretch from sea to shining sea. But expansion came at a terrible cost. Native Americans were forced from their ancestral lands, most tragically during the Trail of Tears. And as new states entered the Union, the question of slavery grew ever more divisive. The Civil War and the end of slavery. By 1861, the nation was torn apart. 11 southern states seceded to form the Confederacy, sparking the Civil War, the deadliest conflict in American history. President Abraham Lincoln vowed to preserve the Union and end slavery. In 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation declared freedom for enslaved people in Confederate states. After 4 years of brutal fighting, Union forces prevailed. Slavery was abolished with the 13th Amendment, but the wounds of war and the struggle for racial equality would linger for generations. The Industrial Revolution. In the late 19th century, America transformed. Railroads crisscrossed the continent. Factories churned out steel, textiles, and machinery. Immigrants from Europe and Asia poured into cities, seeking opportunity in a land of promise and hardship. The United States was becoming an industrial giant. America on the world stage, World War I. When World War I erupted in 1914, the U.S. initially stayed neutral. But in 1917, German submarine attacks drew America into the conflict. U.S. soldiers, doughboys, helped tip the balance, and by 1918, the Allies claimed victory. The Great Depression and World War II. The 1920s roared with jazz and innovation, But the 1930s brought the Great Depression, the worst economic crisis in U.S. history. President Franklin D. Roosevelt launched the New Deal to restore hope and jobs. Then came a new global threat. World War II erupted in 1939. The U.S. remained neutral until December 7, 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. America mobilized on an unprecedented scale, helping defeat Nazi Germany in Europe and Imperial Japan in the Pacific. The war ended in 1945, leaving the United States as one of the world's two superpowers. The Cold War and the space race. The post-war world was defined by a tense rivalry with the Soviet Union, the Cold War. This was an era of nuclear arms races, espionage, and ideological struggle between democracy and communism. In 1961, the Soviet Union sent the first human into space. The U.S. responded with determination. On July 20, 1969, Apollo 11 fulfilled President Kennedy's dream, as Neil Armstrong took a giant leap for mankind on the moon. The Civil Rights Movement. At home, the fight for equality intensified. African Americans, long denied their rights, rose up in the Civil Rights Movement. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. preached nonviolence and justice. Landmark victories. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 brought America closer to its founding ideals of liberty and equality. Vietnam and social change. The 1960s and 70s were marked by turbulence. The Vietnam War divided the nation, sparking protests and questioning U.S. foreign policy. Meanwhile, the women's movement, environmentalism, and counterculture reshaped American society. The rise of technology and a new millennium. The late 20th century ushered in a technological revolution. Personal computers, the internet, and mobile phones transformed how Americans lived, worked, and connected. The U.S. economy shifted from industry to information, ushering in a new era of innovation. September 11th and the War on Terror. On September 11th, 2001, America faced one of its darkest days. Terrorist attacks on New York City and Washington, D.C., claimed thousands of lives and shocked the world. The U.S. launched the War on Terror, leading to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, reshaping foreign policy for decades. America in the 21st century. Today, the United States stands as a global power, economically, militarily, and culturally. It leads in science, technology, and entertainment, while grappling with challenges like climate change, political division, and the ongoing pursuit of equality. From the ancient civilizations of the first Americans, to the revolutionary spirit of 1776, to the boundless ambitions of space exploration and digital innovation, the story of the United States is one of resilience, reinvention, and an enduring belief in freedom. The United States of America is more than a nation. It is an idea, ever evolving, ever striving toward a more perfect union. Its history is not just a record of what has been, but a promise of what can be.